Diego Reyes here, functional health coach, functional nutritionist, owner of Complete Vitality Functional Health Coaching Organization. We are a functional health coaching organization and program that helps men and women just like you that struggle with chronic health issues reverse them by healing their gut, hormones, and get to the root cause of their weight loss resistance. I'm happy to announce that we're back into an office now. We have all types of different, more things going into the program, so that's always exciting. And yeah, so today we're going to talk about a topic that 5 to 6 million women struggle with each year. And it is a serious topic because it is the leading cause to infertility for women in their reproductive years. Okay, and that's called PCOS. All right, Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. And in this video, I'm going to display to you the different types of PCOS and actually how can you actually fix your PCOS. Okay, so obviously if you're watching this, you probably have, if you do have PCOS, you have trouble losing weight, infertility issues, brain fog, fatigue, weight loss resistance, um, and maybe you're on birth control as well or something, and you just struggle with the utmost problems with losing weight and you have PCOS. Well, let's get into it. So first of all, we want to understand there's actually a difference between something called hypothalamic amenorrhea and PCOS. Okay, so those are two different things. But what I want to get at here is that most women that sometimes, well, majority of women that get diagnosed with the PCOS diagnosis, they actually have something called hypothalamic amenorrhea, and this is when there's an absent period. Okay, yes, you could have cysts in your ovaries through ultrasound, but what is happening is that you have irregular missed cycles due to overtraining, over exercising, or just really in general overdoing it, so to say. And what I want to get at with this is that a good way that you can figure out if it's hypothalamic amenorrhea or PCOS is by getting your lab testing done and looking at what's called your FSH and LH. If your FSH and LH are low, okay, typically day 2 of the cycle if you're cycling, or if you don't cycle, whenever. Okay, if it's low, that could be something that you have hypothalamic amenorrhea and not just PCOS. But if it's abnormal or high or elevated, that could be a sign that you have PCOS. So I want to get that out of the way because many women that just have hypothalamic hypothalamic amenorrhea get the diagnosis of PCOS, but in reality, if they actually fed themselves up, uh, deloaded on the training for a little bit and actually took care of their body and not being such a stress state, they would get their hormones back into balance, get their cycle back. So this is something I see inside my coaching practice all the time is women that get the diagnosis of PCOS, but it is hypothalamic amenorrhea, and we know this because we actually take some times of deloading, supporting different hormone levels and supporting hormone detoxification and so forth. And by doing so, they get their hormone balance back, their even fertility back, and they become, so to say, asymptomatic with PCOS. But with some of the things is that we should talk about what are the types and causes because yes, you could have the label of PCOS, a diagnosis of PCOS, but there is specific types that you can have. All right, the leading type, which is about 70% of women with PCOS have, is insulin resistant PCOS. And this is very common. You see, if you are a woman and you have insulin resistant PCOS, you obviously have, you know, ovarian cysts to start off with, abnormal, because it is normal for a woman to have cysts, but not when they're, enlarged and there's many of them. But usually have a high A1C, high insulin, and you could be dealing with metabolic issues, either uh, pre-diabetes or even diabetes. So we want to first identify what type of PCOS you have. PCOS or insulin resistant PCOS. Okay, it's actually something else too. The next one, post pill PCOS, which is actually a temporary state as well. But this is, let's say you get off birth control, whether it be a depot shot or a pill. Usually when that happens, your hormones then surges, specifically your androgens. So your androgens surge up, which then create abnormal cycles and even ovarian cyst. Okay, so this is just a period of time, but this can cause you to have PCOS. A third one is inflammatory PCOS. This is when there's inflammation in the ovaries that they can disrupt the hormone balance and even cause the cyst. Okay, and then you have inflammatory PCOS. And then the last one is adrenal PCOS, which is caused by your adrenal glands overproducing cortisol and other cortisol hormones like norepinephrine, adrenaline, and so forth. So the first step is to actually figure out what type of PCOS do you have. And to be honest with you, and this is coming from a clinical experience, meaning experience that I do with all the other women that I coach and transform lives with PCOS, is that majority of the time it's more than one. And I want to be clear here. Just losing weight and exercising more can actually hurt someone with PCOS more. And I say this because if you are a woman struggling with adrenal PCOS or even inflammatory PCOS, you're just stressing your body more. Okay. And by doing so, you're aggravating and stealing more hormone to make cortisol, which is a whole different topic, something called progesterone steal, which many women with PCOS struggle with, low progesterone anyway. So if you're training more, stuff like that, you're just aggravating your symptoms even more. Getting back on track here. So the first step is to identify what type of PCOS do you have. Okay. And by identifying what PCOS type you have, you can actually start with a tailored approach to your specific symptoms. And like I said, many women struggle with insulin resistant PCOS and then probably adrenal PCOS and even inflammatory. So see, it's a combination of everything. But let's talk here. So some general guidelines is that with inflammatory PCOS, a lot of the times it can come from inflammation inside the gut, or it can come from immune system issues. Okay. And so what I mean by that is that many women that struggle with that type of PCOS, okay, it can come from, food sensitivities. It can come from gut bacterial overgrowth in the gut. Okay. It can come from leaky gut. Okay. All these things. And this is why you could be a woman. This is why you deal with not just one issue. I have women that come to me all the time and it's like hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, PCOS, um, fibromyalgia. They have whatever because everything is tied together. It's not just one issue. Okay. So with that being said, let's say the majority of women, let's say you deal with the inflammatory PCOS, but you also have jacked up cortisol levels. Well, now you have two of them. Okay. So you don't want to just focus on whatever one you have. Okay. So yes, there's different forms of PCOS, but you want to focus on a holistic approach. That's why I talk about holistic. That's why I do holistic. But nonetheless, though, some of the things that can definitely help you with your PCOS if you're struggling is number one is to follow a low anti-inflammatory diet. All right, more so what's called a Mediterranean diet. You want to have healthy fibers in it. You want to have something called low glycemic carbs. These low glycemic carbs are going to help you with getting your blood sugar under control. Now, for most women, the best thing that they can do is actually lower the physical stress they put on themselves. If you continue to cut calories right away and start training aggressively, you're just going to stress your body out more, which is going to aggravate your PCOS like symptoms and even hormone balance. So you want to take a time where you're what's called deloading the body, okay, and then get into the exercise and movement, okay. And the number one thing that you could truly do is get the right functional lab testing done with your PCOS. So what I like to do is I like to run something called a Dutch hormone test. This is a dry urine comprehensive hormone analysis. These are what the Dutch stands for. And this is pretty much measuring a 4-point cortisol test and then also pretty much your actual hormone balance because you urinate on a card for 4 times throughout the day transparently, so you can actually like get a broad view of your hormone balance. By doing this, we're able to measure how well you're detoxifying your estrogen, how well your cortisol is throughout the day and throughout the night, and so many other things like organic acid testing. But if you're a woman trying to get to the root cause of PCOS and you want to finally lose the weight and keep it off long term, that's exactly what I do, and I've helped hundreds of women do that. So if you're looking to do that as well, just look at all the other YouTube videos or book a calendar call link below in the description. Hope this helps.